Hello and welcome back to the daily study of the Way of Mastery. Today we continue with Lesson 2, You Create Your Experience, Section 3, Peace Flows from Alignment with the Mind of God. And we're going to look at paragraphs 14 and 15, where Jeshua says, helplessness, hopelessness, despair, anger, and hatred are all symptoms of a fundamental delusion that has occurred within the depth of the mind. It has occurred because there has been a long history of having cultivated the skill of listening to the wrong voice. The wrong voice is the voice of ego. It has taught you to judge, to pick, to select what you will be responsible for. The more you move into that consciousness, the harder it seems to ever hope for a chance of transcending the sense of separation, conflict, and lack of peace. And then in paragraph 15, he says, for how many of you have not known the feeling of resting your head upon the pillow at night and not being able to sleep because it is just not going the way you expected? The reason you cannot sleep is because you are in judgment of your creation. So Jeshua is saying that these things that we can all relate to, feeling helpless, hopeless, despair, anger, and hatred, that they're just symptoms. And the cause is the fundamental delusion that has occurred within the depth of the mind, within the depth of the mind. So it's not something we're really conscious of. I think that's important to acknowledge. And he says it's occurred because there's been a long history of having cultivated the skill. It's a skill of listening to the wrong voice. So we've grown this skill over a long time of listening to the wrong voice, the voice of the ego, the voice of separation, the voice of conflict. That's the fundamental delusion, that somehow we could be separate. It's the tiny mad idea. The wrong voice is the voice of the ego. Jeshua says it has taught you to judge, we all do that, to pick, to select what you will be responsible for. And if you listened yesterday, and the theme of this chapter is we are taking 100% responsibility for all of our creations, whether we quote unquote like them or not. We are being taught to come into acceptance of all of them, and that we are the creator of all that we experience. So anything we experience is our creation. And Jeshua is saying here, when we judge, when we try and pick and choose which of our experiences we want to be responsible for and which ones we don't, we want to put out there and blame other people and blame the world and blame God, that's when we suffer, he says. And the more we move into that consciousness, the harder it seems to ever hope for a chance of transcending that. And so if it was a skill that we cultivated to listen to the wrong voice of the ego, this is the work. It's the skill of cultivating listening to the right voice of the Holy Spirit. And then in the next paragraph, Jeshua just kind of, relates to us. How many of us can relate feeling restless when we're trying to go to sleep at night, but we can't sleep because our life is not going the way that we expected or wanted it to, or thought it should. And the reason he says you can't sleep is because you're in judgment of your creation. You're saying this is not right. This is not okay. This is bad. Something's wrong here. Instead of accepting, embracing, and in a way loving all of our creations and saying, if I created this, and this is the empowering message we can't forget. If I created this, then I can create something else. That's how powerful Jeshua is saying that we are. And he gets into that in the next paragraph, which we'll talk about tomorrow. We're keeping it short today. Thanks for listening. If you get value, like, subscribe, share with someone else you think will get value. And I'm excited to get more into this tomorrow. Have a great day.